The war in Ukraine grinds on, with no end in sight. The conflict has devastated cities and towns, leaving a trail of destruction and despair. Hopes for a swift resolution have faded, as diplomatic efforts have repeatedly stalled. The international community watches anxiously, hoping for a breakthrough. Instead, the conflict has morphed into a bloody stalemate, with neither side willing to back down. The front lines are marked by trenches and constant skirmishes. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has injected himself into the debate, stirring controversy with his bold statements. He argues that recognizing Crimea as Russian is the path to peace, a stance that has sparked intense debate. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky vehemently disagrees, asserting that Ukraine will never cede territory to Russia. He insists that Ukraine will never cede territory, a sentiment echoed by many Ukrainians who remain resolute in their fight for sovereignty. Trump's comments have ignited a firestorm of controversy, with opinions sharply divided. Some see his stance as pragmatic, a necessary step towards ending the conflict. Others view it as appeasement, a dangerous concession to Russian aggression. The heart of the dispute lies in the status of Crimea, a region with a complex history and strategic importance. Russia annexed the peninsula in 2014, a move that was met with international condemnation. This move was widely condemned as illegal, yet Russia has maintained its grip on the region. However, Russia has consolidated its control over the region, fortifying its presence and integrating Crimea into its territory. The international community remains divided, with ongoing debates about the legitimacy of Russia's actions. Most countries still consider Crimea a part of Ukraine, standing firm in their support for Ukrainian sovereignty, but some have tacitly accepted Russia's annexation, reflecting the complex and contentious nature of this geopolitical conflict. Trump argues that recognizing Crimea as Russian would remove a major obstacle to peace. He believes that this acknowledgement could pave the way for more constructive dialogue between the conflicting parties. He believes that Zelensky should prioritize ending the bloodshed, focusing on the immediate needs of his people rather than holding on to contested territories. Even if it means making painful concessions, Trump argues that the ultimate goal should be peace and stability in the region. Trump's view echoes a proposal from his own administration, which had considered similar strategies during his tenure. The idea of freezing territorial lines was floated in 2019, suggesting that both sides could benefit from a temporary halt in hostilities. This would have involved both sides agreeing to a ceasefire, creating a more stable environment for future negotiations. They would also halt all military activity along the existing line of contact, reducing the risk of further escalation. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, a Trump ally, has revived this concept, advocating for a strategic pause in the conflict. He argues that a freeze would allow time for negotiations, giving both sides a chance to come to a more lasting agreement. It could also prevent further loss of life, providing a much-needed respite for war-weary civilians. Critics argue that this approach rewards Russian aggression, potentially undermining international law. They say that it would set a dangerous precedent, encouraging other nations to pursue similar tactics. Other countries might be emboldened to seize territory by force, destabilizing global peace and security. Zelensky remains defiant. He insists that Crimea is Ukrainian territory. He vows to liberate it from Russian control. He argues that any concession on Crimea would violate Ukraine's constitution. It would also undermine international law. Zelensky's stance has resonated with many Ukrainians. They view Russia's annexation of Crimea as illegal. They are unwilling to accept it as a fait accompli. Public opinion polls show overwhelming support for Zelensky's position. The Ukrainian people are prepared to continue fighting for their territorial integrity. The recent diplomatic maneuverings suggest a potential shift in strategy, indicating a complex and evolving geopolitical landscape. U.S. officials have pulled out of talks in London, a move that has surprised many observers and analysts. Instead, they are focusing on direct engagement with Moscow, aiming to address critical issues head-on. This move has raised eyebrows and sparked a flurry of speculation among political commentators. Some see it as a sign that the U.S. is losing patience with Zelensky's refusal to negotiate, interpreting it as a strategic pivot. Others believe that the U.S. is simply trying to explore all diplomatic avenues, leaving no stone unturned in their quest for peace. Meanwhile, the conflict in Ukraine continues to escalate, with no end in sight. Russia has intensified its attacks despite a declared Easter truce, showing no signs of de-escalation. 9 civilians were killed in the city of Marinets, adding to the growing toll of the conflict. The situation in Ukraine is precarious, with civilians bearing the brunt of the violence. The risk of a wider war remains high, as military tensions continue to rise. The international community must work together to find a peaceful resolution, emphasizing the need for unity and cooperation. The stakes are too high to fail, and the world watches with bated breath.